You're listening to the School Leadership Reimagined Podcast, episode 121.
Welcome to the School Leadership Reimagined Podcast, where we rethink what's possible to transform your school. If you're tired of settling for small wins and incremental improvement, then stay tuned to discover powerful and practical strategies for getting every teacher in your school moving towards excellence. Now, here's your host, Robyn Jackson.
Hey Builders, welcome to this season of the School Leadership Reimagined Podcast. I'm your host, Robyn Jackson, and today we are so excited to be back. I've really missed you, but I hope you've enjoyed the Summer Rewind series we did this summer. We got a lot of positive feedback about that series, about how it went, how much people enjoyed revisiting past episodes. And so based on your feedback, we're going to keep that going. Anytime that we would normally take a break, in between seasons, we're going to do a rewind series and replay some of our favorite episodes so that you can revisit them, be reminded about the content in those episodes. So today, I had something else planned. I have the whole season kind of planned out, and I had this premiere episode where we were going to be talking about something that I've been working on this summer, but last night inside of Buildership University, we had an office hours, and several of our builders came into the office hours and they were just exhausted. And many of them felt defeated. And one of the things I love about office hours inside of Buildership University is that we have such a supportive community. It's a place where you can come and be truly transparent and vulnerable and know that your colleagues have got your back. We've got an international audience, and people come to the office hours and they can support each other, and you have that support system all over the world. And so a lot of people came and they said, I just need to fill my cup. And the reason they were saying that is because the school year has just started and already it's becoming overwhelming. And so instead of doing what I planned to do, I thought it would be really important today to talk to you, especially if you are feeling overwhelmed already, and talk to you about how Buildership can help you through that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before I do that, I've got a couple of announcements. So first announcement is that our next Builders Lab is happening January 30th through February 2nd. So make sure that you save those dates and start planning. Tickets are going to go on sale for our Builders Lab at the end of the month. Now, this is going to be another 360-degree experience. We still don't know how things are going to go with meeting face-to-face, and the 360-degree experience is so much fun that we've decided to do the BL 360 in January. So look out at the end of the month for those tickets. Mark those dates on your calendars, January 30th through February 1st. And it's a virtual experience. And I'm telling you, every single time we do a virtual experience, and we've done over a dozen now between our public builders labs and our private clients, it just keeps getting better and better. And we're already sourcing things for your builder's box. So we've got a couple of upgrades coming for the builder's box. And so I am already starting to get excited about that. So tickets are going to be available at the end of the month. The other thing is that we are going to be reopening Buildership University. It's been closed for a while. And when we bring people into Buildership University, we do so carefully. We don't just kind of throw you into a membership site. We want to make sure that the right people are coming because we really protect our community. We want to make sure that when people come, once they get in, they can feel like they're not being overwhelmed by all the resources. And so we bring people in cohorts so that you're not alone, so that you have a cohort that comes in with you. And that way we can get you acclimated together, and the cohorts start bonding within the cohort before they get into the regular group. And so our next cohort of Buildership University, we're going to be enrolling them at the end of the month. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. For those of you who've been wanting to come into Buildership University for a while, then make sure that you stay tuned. That is coming. All right, the last announcement is something that's inside of Buildership University, but I wanted to share with you because I thought you might enjoy it too. So we have started something new this year. Every year, we do a summer reading list here on the podcast, and we talk about books that are non-education books, but that are of interest to educators. And I like to do that because I want to step outside of education and get fresh ideas and new ideas that we might not have thought about, but that can really enhance the work that we're doing in our schools. So every year we come out with that summer reading list, we tell you about the books, but then we never get to talk about them. So inside of Buildership University, we are starting a BU book club, and we're going to be taking the books from the summer reading list and reading them together. And then we're going to get together and in a informal environment. And instead of kind of having that book club where you sit around and you just say, hey, I really enjoyed this quote on page 47, and then we read the book back to each other. We're going to be doing a book club that's a lot more fun. We're going to people who come to the book club, we're going to send them, some treats. We're going to sit together and enjoy the treats virtually and talk about the book, but the implications for our schools. What are the ideas in the book that are directly applicable to the work that we're doing in our schools? So we're going to be sharing those ideas and how we're implementing them in our schools so that we can all get better. I'm there along with you. I'm sharing, I read this part and I thought this would be a great way to manage attendance. Or I read this part here and I thought, wow, this would be really something that would add to our staff meetings and get our staff more engaged. And so when we're finished with the book club, we're going to have a collection of ideas that are immediately applicable in schools. So if you're a member of Buildership University, then you've already gotten an email about this book club selection. And by the way, the book club selection is a book called Effortless, and it's by Greg McOwen. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but the book is called Effortless. And so we are starting that book and we're going to be meeting in October. So if you're a member of BU, make sure that you get the book and get started. And if you're not a member of BU, but you want to still kind of read along with us, then I'm encouraging you to get the book Effortless. And maybe I'll share some of the big takeaways on an upcoming podcast. You never know. So that's our book club selection inside of BU for this first book club. The book is Effortless, and we'll be meeting in October to talk about it. All right, I think that's it for the announcements. And now I just want to talk just plainly. I don't have like a big script today, but I am hearing from so many people that the school year has just started and already we're feeling overwhelmed. And not without reason, because there are so many things happening. We've got spikes in COVID cases. So we've got, some schools that have entire classrooms that had to go into quarantine because of exposure, teachers who have to stay home because they've been exposed. We've got a teacher shortage happening in a lot of districts where there are some teachers who have decided they don't want to come back to work under these conditions and they've resigned, and it's left vacancies 1, 2, 3 weeks after school is already opened. Sometimes you weren't able to fill all the vacancies because the teacher pool has shrunken as a result of COVID. And so you're having a hard time finding subs and trying to figure out other ways to cover classrooms. Some of you are worried about the fact that school's been open a few weeks and already there's talk about going back to virtual learning. There are also political messes going on right now. Some of you are finding yourselves in the middle of mask debates, whether it's we want the children to wear a mask or we don't want the children to wear a mask. And then there's this undercurrent of debate that's happening right now around critical race theory. And some of you are starting to get, attacked about that or questioned and cornered about that. And so in addition to the ordinary back to school stresses, you have these other things that can threaten to take your attention away. It can help you feel overwhelmed. You spent the summer planning, thinking this year was going to be different. We're going to get back on track. If you worked with us at Builders Lab, you were developing your vision and you're excited about coming back to school and sharing your vision with your staff. If you have been reading Stop Leading, Start Building, maybe you spent the summer putting systems in place so that when you came back to school this school year, you could feel like you were finally in control of things, that you finally had systems established, and then all of this happens. Maybe you were part of our Buildership Foundations Accelerator, where we spent 8 weeks together building the systems together, and you're so excited about putting those systems in place, and yet you feel like, I don't have any time to even drive these systems and put these architectures in place because I'm just too busy contact tracing, or I'm running around subbing for a class because we just don't have subs. And a lot of you are feeling defeated already because you want to be a builder. You want to establish that vision and start pursuing that vision. And it feels like with everything else going on, that vision that feels so urgent to you is getting delayed. It's getting put off. You're not making the progress that you envisioned you would make when you were planning this summer. And not only that, but your staff is worn out already. School's only been in session for, a little bit of time, but your staff members are just, they're overwhelmed. They're frustrated because many of them thought that when we return to the classroom, then we could get back to normal. And I should use air quotes for that because people thought that, things would be over, we're all vaccinated, and now we can go back to the way things were without realizing that we're probably never going to go back to the way things were. And a lot of people are mourning the loss of how things used to be. A lot of people are overwhelmed and frustrated because we're all experiencing COVID fatigue and we're all kind of exhausted and it's just, we're weary. And so not only are you dealing with your own feelings of overwhelm, but you're trying to manage the feelings of overwhelm from your teachers. And then your students, many of whom have been out of school for almost 2 years. And if you're an elementary person, that means that you have students who have never been to school who are now in the first or second grade. And the things that they would have learned that would have helped them acclimate to school in kindergarten or pre-K or even first grade, they don't know. So you have kids who don't know how to do schools. Even if you're in the secondary level at middle school or high school, you have 7th and 8th graders who have never been to middle school. The last time they were in school, they were in elementary school. So they are essentially 6th graders, even though they're facing higher expectations. Same thing for high school. You have 10th and 11th graders who have never been to high school. And so they don't know how to navigate high school. And so you're finding that you're having to spend a lot of time just teaching kids how to do school. And all of this threatens to dampen our enthusiasm around buildership. And it almost feels like you can't do buildership right now, that maybe you have to put buildership aside. Maybe you have to deal with that later. Let me just get school started first, and then I will be a builder. That's not the way buildership works. You see, if buildership was only good in perfect circumstances, what good would it be? I mean, that's one of the reasons why we even have this need to shift from leadership to buildership as it is, because leadership only works in perfect circumstances. And buildership is something that works when things aren't perfect. Remember, the big promise of buildership is that you can turn your school into a success story with the people and the resources, and I should add, the circumstances you have right now. That means that you can't put buildership off until your circumstances get better. Buildership is designed to help you work with what you have. So what do you have right now? Well, you have extra stress. What do you have right now? You've got probably some teaching shortages. You have some political controversies that you're trying to navigate. You have teacher overwhelmed. Well, you don't put buildership aside until you get those things fixed. Buildership is what helps you fix them. That's why we are here. That's why we're making the shift. So if you think, well, I can't deal with the vision right now, I'll share my vision story later on, you're making a mistake, because it's your vision that's going to get everybody focused. It's your vision that's going to keep you focused. You know, one of our builders at our office hours last night was sharing how things were crazy at her school. And she was spending so much time contact tracing that she wasn't getting into classrooms. And then she said, but then I started thinking like a builder. And when I felt like a builder, I said, my time needs to be spent pursuing my vision, not doing this. I thought, my leadership mind came back and I was saying, oh, I've got to do all this contact tracing because I'm the principal. That's not true. So she put some systems in place. She got some other people involved and delegated some of that work to them so that she could stay focused on pursuing her vision and doing the work that only she could do, getting into those classrooms, giving her teachers the feedback, the support, the accountability, and the culture that they needed to be able to continue to pursue that vision this year and ultimately achieve it in the next 3 years. I talked to another builder and she was saying how her teachers have just been so overwhelmed. But when she sits down and talks with them and says, what is our vision? Has our vision changed? Do we still believe in this? Is our mission different, or do we still believe in the same mission? What about those core values? Are those core values still important to us? And when her teachers had that conversation, they said, yes. No, we still believe in the vision. Then she said, well, then our conversation is not about if, it's just about how. And shifting that conversation changed the climate of her school. It kept people from feeling defeated and helped them feel empowered. If you're thinking, I can't do vision right now, you're making a huge mistake. Right now is where you need to be doing vision the most. You see, we are so entrenched in that leadership mindset, which says, anytime some circumstance comes up, we abandon our plans, we abandon everything we're doing, we put out that fire, and then we go and try to pick up the pieces of the thing we abandoned. That's leadership. And it's failed us in the past. We need something different. Buildership says, no. Our vision is too urgent. Our mission is too necessary. Our core values are non-negotiable. We can't put them aside. Instead, we're going to leverage them to help us navigate the latest crisis. And we're going to put systems in place that are more about fire prevention so we can stop spending all of our time trying to put out fires in the first place. Now, I know it's hard right now. I know that it's overwhelming right now. But as a builder, remember, we don't say go. We don't say let's go. We say come. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's probably because you are standing in the wrong place. You are standing in a place of leadership. You are right there with everybody else, looking at the crisis through the same lens as everybody else. And you need to step away. You need to step away, go ahead, figure out what the path forward is going to look like so that you can invite people out of the mess and into something better. A few months ago, we were in office hours, and again, we were dealing with, just kind of this collective feeling of overwhelmed. And I started talking about a plane crash, and I'll share with you what I shared with them, which is that let's imagine that you are in a plane crash and everybody survived, everybody's alive, but you got some injuries. You've got to figure out, you're in some sort of deserted place. And so you've got to figure out food, water, and shelter. And you have two options. One option is you can stay with the wreckage and you can get together with people and say, okay, let's try to figure out and triage this situation and who needs bandages. And at some point we're going to have to find water, and the sun's getting, to the point where it's going to set. We need to figure out shelter for the night. Does anybody know how to start a fire? And you can stay there with everybody else and feel what they're feeling and, make decisions together. It's one way. But when you do that, you don't move forward. You have conversations about it. You experience the same angst as everybody else, but nothing is getting done. Now, the other option is you can walk away from the wreckage. You can go out and find water. You can get a lay of the land so that you know what you're facing and what kind of dangers are ahead. You can find high ground so that you can build shelter that's safe, or you can determine that there isn't a better spot than where you are right now, so we need to hunker down here and let's find some water. You can get a fire started or go out and collect dry wood so that you can get a fire started. In other words, you can stay with everybody else and try to figure it out from that spot, or you can walk away, solve the problems, and when they're solved, come back and invite people to shelter and food and water. That's the fundamental difference between being a leader and being a builder. So if you find yourself kind of caught in the weeds and you're wringing your hands with everybody else, or you're absorbing everybody else's stress, and you think that's helping, it's not. It's not helping them, and it's not helping you. What will help is for you to step away. Walk away, figure it out. You've got a teaching shortage right now. You don't have all the vacancies filled. What you're used to doing is grabbing a warm body and throwing it in a classroom before the parents start complaining. And all you've done is just invited a problem into your building that will take you years of heartache and stress before it gets resolved if you don't get the right person. What the builder does is the builder walks away. They say, what are we building? And then they go look for a person, the right person, to bring into the community to help build. They step away. They tell the parents, we're not putting a warm body in front of kids. Here's what we're going to do. They start looking at the situation from all different angles, and they find a creative solution that isn't obvious in the moment and in the situation, and they can only see it because they stepped away. What a builder does is when the teachers are stressed out and talking about, oh, the kids are they're terrible because they don't know how to be in school, and I'm having to go back and teach routines. And if I wanted to teach first grade, I would have taught first grade, but I'm teaching third grade, but they're acting like first graders and they're complaining all the time. If you sit there and listen to it, you think that's the only way. If you take a step back, you say, all right, how do we quickly get the students integrated and teach them how to do school so that they can learn. If you're a leader, you stay in the COVID crisis every single day, just getting buffeted by another positive case or, stressing out because you've got another class quarantined. If you're a builder, you step away and you say, how do we configure school to limit exposure? What are our options when classes are in quarantine? How do we redistribute resources so we make sure that all of our kids can learn? And you figure it out. If you're a leader, you feel overwhelmed by the crisis. And so you put off your vision. And you feel defeated because once you've seen your vision, it's hard to go back to the way things were. And so every day feels like you're going to work and you're letting down kids. And you feel like, well, I don't have another choice because the district is making these demands, or the parents are making those demands, or I've got these fires to put out. And if I can just get through this period, then maybe I can pick up my vision again, knowing in your heart that the longer it sits, the more stale it becomes. Or you can be a builder and you can say the vision didn't change just because my circumstances changed. So now that we have these circumstances, how do we fix it? What can we do? You see, there are always going to be problems, distractions. And if you let them, they can make you feel so frustrated and so overwhelmed. And I don't want to minimize what you're feeling right now. It's real. This is hard. What I do want to encourage you is these are the times that you need buildership the most. Don't abandon it just because you're stressed. The way forward is through buildership. And so I know this is hard. I know it means you're going to have to change the way you're thinking. You've been thinking like a leader for so long that the first time you hit a crisis, you just revert to that leadership paradigm. But I want to encourage you to resist that temptation and keep building. The more you do that, the more focus you'll have. The more you do that, the more you'll be able to figure it out. The more you do that, the less overwhelmed and frustrated you'll feel because you are still pursuing your vision. And that pursuit will help you prioritize. That pursuit will help you to say no to the distractions. That pursuit will keep you encouraged when there's temptation all around to feel discouraged. And when people see that in you, they become encouraged too. So this week, my challenge to you is this. Whenever you're feeling discouraged, whenever you're feeling frustrated or overwhelmed, take a step back and look at the situation like a builder. If you do, you can avoid a lot of this frustration, a lot of this feeling of defeat. You can navigate your school safely through the crisis. And when you look up, you're further along than you thought you'd ever be. Because that's what happens when you tackle your problems like a builder. Now, I want to say this. You don't have to do this alone. Buildership University is more than just courses and trainings. Perhaps the most robust, strongest part of Buildership University is that we're there for each other. We support each other. A lot of times when you are a builder, you're the only one. Nobody else gets what you're trying to do. And that can feel very lonely and isolating. But when you're a part of Buildership University, you know there's a place where other people get you. One of the things we always say inside of BU is that when you become a builder, you become a bit of a weirdo, and it's true. But inside of Buildership University are other weirdos just like you. And so if you don't want to do this alone, if you want to be a part of a community of builders who can encourage each other and share with each other and support each other, then I invite you to join us in Buildership University at the end of the month. So that way you can navigate any challenge that you're facing with a tribe of people who are there to support you, encourage you, and who are going to cheer for you every step of the way. So for today, make sure that you're approaching your problems like a builder. Look out for Buildership University, which is opening at the end of the month. And I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to the School Leadership Reimagined podcast. For show notes and free downloads, visit schoolleadershipreimagined.com. School Leadership Reimagined is brought to you by MindSteps, Inc., where we build master teachers.